understanding the minimalistic shoe game and transitioning to spending more time spread toes, barefoot, zero heel drop, right? Flat foot. Okay, so what happens is for years and years and years, especially our generation, you grow up and a lot of people don't know stuff about feet, they don't know stuff about shoes. So then most shoes, they have a heel rise. So that means they'll go from a more flat toe bed and then midfoot, and then as you get towards the heel, it's heavily cushioned and it's elevated. Okay, so for men, it's not high heels, but it's quite a rise. It's as if, oh wow, would you look at that? My toy comes in handy again. It's that your foot is elevated. So if this is the flat ground, your feet are with a heel rise, right? So it's like you're slightly more on your calf, more stress on the Achilles, and that's why a lot of people get bunions, just like the big toe, that raises the big toe here, right? When you're on the flat ground and it's elevated, it causes you to create more press and more pressure with your big toe because your foot is trying to ground itself. It's trying to find its way, find where it is. So then as a result from that heel hike, the big toe, like this, it's not really aware of where it is, so then it presses down more than it needs to. That's why people get the falling in of the knees and the other stuff that happens residually from the trends, okay, from the shoes and from the body reacting instinctively the way that it does. That's why it happens. And that's why a lot of the stuff in the movement industry, they all thought, well, shit, we got to get away from the big toe. We got to go all outside edge. We got to do this because people's knees are falling in. But they're not understanding why that's happening. And a lot of it has to do with the shoes and the big toe trying to ground itself. So then when you're really pressing on your feet, right, especially the big toe, there's a tendency for the knees to come in when you're pressing. You could try it yourself, okay? And it's like when you see basketball players getting ready to jump, they'll have like a slight knee collapse in, right? Or Olympic weightlifters, the body naturally does that like a bridge, right? It's a pressure release mechanism to where it comes in order to explode and come out on itself. But when you're chronically, classically in that position, like what happens with the shoes and the footwear with the elevated heel, that creates those problems. So it's nothing against the big toe. It's nothing against you can't use the inside edge of your foot. It's just prolonged exposure to one single position. So then if you think about how we were created, right, naturally, we're designed to have our feet touch the ground. And having arches, of course, but you're touching, like, you're flat. You're working with the ground as you step, right? Slight sort of starting with the outside edge of the foot, roll off into the middle, activation of the arch and all the toes together, and then a big foot press off and lift, right? Slight heel contact, boom, like this, boom, right? So then when you're in a shoe that your heel is constantly elevated, you can understand that over time, that creates a problem. Hyperactive calf, you see in women, right? With the high heels, what do you see? Super active calf, right? That's why a lot of them like to wear the high heel shoes, because it makes their legs look nice because they're flexed. They're in a flex position of up on the toes. So then everything is, right? The toes are trying to grab and work together. And then as a result, just like with my forearm, right? When they're grabbing and gripping together, the calf will be active. So then that creates super tight and shortened Achilles, tight calf, which can throw off the whole chain of your body because everything's connected. So then enter in minimalist shoes and return to the natural way. Good thing, right? One problem is presented. Oftentimes life will balance itself out and a solution will rise up. But it's not entirely taking into account the realities of the transition, right? The in the middle, the gray area. Because everyone's like, Yeah, get yourself into those shoes, man. Yeah, dude. It's barefoot. You get the toe spread, right? Flat on the ground and stuff like nature intended and all that kind of shit. You give your feet your space, get rid of your bunions. All great. But it's missing one slight thing. It used to happen when the Vibram Five Fingers came out because a bunch of people switched over to them, and then there was some lawsuits and some other stuff that happened where people got injured. So then they created a transitional sort of like system to where they would have a slight rise, and then they would have the person after a certain amount of time take that rise out, and then they'd have the next level and then take it out until they eventually got the flat. Really smart. But besides that, a lot of people don't do that, or people that have like knowledge and they're practitioners, they would say that to people. But as a whole, the culture does very little to prepare people for the stuff that happens. So for example, a lot of folks that get into the different methodologies of the day, they tear their Achilles a lot, right? Or they'll damage their knees. They'll do this stuff where they're spending a lot of time now on their toes, a lot of time on certain parts of their feet, a lot of springboard stuff, but it's not taking into account that person's lifestyle, how much time they spend in the footwear where that's a really tight short Achilles and a tight calf, which is just going to pull things. If you're bouncing a lot and you're used to being elevated, when you naturally bounce, your foot, when you land, has a springboard effect. So that means you go down to the toe, the footbed, and then the heel plops, bounces on the ground to catch yourself, right? So when you jump, you go boom, and then a slight bounce, and then you come back to flat, to resting, to where you can walk, you can run, whatever else, right? That's the healthy mechanics of landing. But when you have a super tight and short Achilles from being elevated in the shoes like that for a long time, now when you're doing all those things and you're springboarding or you're spending more time in that shoe, and maybe you're running in that shoe, jumping in that shoe, lifting in that shoe, that is a really tight Achilles now coming down to drop like that. So it's like there's resistance in getting it to do its natural function because of how much time was spent elevated. And that's why a lot of people are hurting themselves in the shoes, and they don't know that it's switching over to the shoes that's doing that, or training these natural ways, getting out of their shoes now with all these people are saying, yeah, man, barefoot, do this, do that. And then a lot of injuries happen as a result of that simple thing can equate for a huge percentage of the injuries that are happening from people transitioning from with the shoes and the lifestyle and spending all that time in them to trying to be more natural. It's uncharted territory for most people. And then a lot of people are getting hurt unnecessarily simply from just people not knowing, not being educated enough to understand it, that it's from switching to, again, super tight calf, shortened Achilles, now to resisted pull drops. So now think, if you spend most of your life in a shoe and you're elevated like this in your foot, and then maybe you watch a documentary, spend some time with a natural coach, whatever it is, and they're like, bro, you got to be flat foot. Okay, so then think from here now, in this degree, now to spending all your time here, and now you're training with this person, and you're running, and you're jumping, and you're spending more time like that, overnight, a lot of people experience damage. And I know a ton of people that happened. I was playing football with them. They learned the stuff about shoes and feet and all that shit. And then a lot of them had sprained ankles, Achilles issues and all that kind of stuff. And it came from a result of just the 180 degrees from elevated straight down to flat. So then certain steps, like you have to ease into the things, you have to graduate yourself basically while also strengthening the pattern, because as it loosens to its natural state, the calf and the Achilles starts to lengthen, you also have to strengthen in between, but it has weak moments, because anyone that knows things about tendons and ligaments and stuff like that, when they get stretched, they get floppy, right? And they kind of go like dead, right? If you've ever seen someone with like, if they've ever tore their Achilles or their knee, whatever happens, the body goes limp, right? They create space so that you can kind of limp your way out of the situation and get the safety. That's the natural survival mechanism that's there. So in those stages, there has to be stuff that's really passive to allow for that natural mechanism to return, and not just jump straight into, okay, I'm going to be running all the time and jumping all the time and lifting all the time. Now that I'm transitioning into the barefoot and the minimalist shoes, it's creating a gradient. So what would I do for anyone out there that's looking to transition to spending more time barefoot or transitioning to minimalist shoes, which they're going to be active in, for the rest of their lives? I would say spend time. So you get your shoes, right? You got your minimalist shoes. You found a good fit for yourself. Great. Right when you get those shoes, spend some time in them. It's the same thing with like acclimating to cleats, right? In sports, you get a new cleat, you take all the laces out, you put your foot in it, you lace it back up, and you wear it for a few hours to acclimatize. You do the same thing with your new shoe that you got. Spend, I don't know, anywhere from like 30 minutes to 3 to 4 hours in the shoe around the house to get your body used to the shoe and the new stimulus in a comfortable environment that is your home. Because a lot of times when you're at home, you don't have shoes on, right? Your body's used to being flat-footed, right? Barefooted or in socks. So then during those times that your body's used to, okay, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, there's no stimulus, I'm not jumping, I'm not running, that gives your body the time to acclimatize itself to the new stimulus of being barefoot, and then the calf and the Achilles will passively relax itself and calm down so that when you get into the more explosive stuff, you don't have to blow a gasket. So spend some time for like each day after you have the shoe, get in the shoe, spend some time at the house and take it off. Then go back to your regular shoes if you have to do training or anything else, and then go back home or like walking around in the street in your minimalist shoe, right? And once you leave the gym, get back in that shoe. And then spend some more time at the house, and then give yourself like a few days, a few weeks of that until now that you've gotten used to, okay, sweet, it's been 3 weeks, I've been wearing the shoe at the house, I only got to do that for the first week, but then now I'm walking around with it in the streets, I'm feeling good, wear my regular shoes that I'm used to while I'm training, and then gradually over time, 3 weeks to a month, now I'm doing more passive exercise in my minimalist shoes as well. When I'm at the gym, when I'm training, or when I'm at home working out, I'm now integrating those because my body's used to it. I've given myself a healthy amount of time to adapt to the new stimulus, and things have relaxed enough that I can then what? Start weightlifting, doing simple stuff. If you're walking, right? Less explosive stuff. You want to give that more time. If you're lifting weight in your shoes, you're building strength, right? Strengthening those patterns, making them permanent. So then that way now, when you do get into the explosive stuff later, like I would say take a month to 3 months to get back into the explosive stuff in those shoes. It's tough, it's slow, but it'll help you in the long term actually transition properly and not have to deal with a bunch of injuries that could plague you for a long time if you just take that 1 to 3 month window of acclimatizing to the shoe. So like 1 week of doing the stuff at the house, of like, all right, I'm wearing it for an hour or 2 or 3 at the house after I just bought it, cool. And then I wear it around in the street. I don't wear it when I train. I don't do it when I'm doing anything explosive like running or anything else. Cool, first week. After that, you don't have to wear it at the house. You just wear it around the street like anyone else. Switch the shoes for the gym. That's like a 2-week window. After that, 3 weeks, or maybe a month if you want to push it, then you start to incorporate the minimalist shoes again in your training, but you want to be doing basic stuff, mobility things, weightlifting, shit like that. And then after that, once you've done that for a month to 2 months, you're reaching that 3-month window of, okay, now start to do your explosive training in those shoes. And I promise you, you'll notice the difference and the benefit, and your feet will thank you. And you can avoid a lot of the stuff to where nothing's a guarantee, right? There's no fucking guarantees. Transitioning for anyone else, you're spending years elevated. So switching to those shoes, no matter what, for some people could just be, they have to sprain an ankle. They have to go the hard way in order to understand that it fucked their body up doing that for so long. And a lot of times, trauma in, trauma out. So sometimes in order to get that space, the body has to have a quick jerk, and it just happens no matter how much safety protocols and precautions that you take, it just happens. That's life. And anyone that's training, that does anything, if you're alive, you have to sign up for the stuff in life that not everything is going to go perfect. So I'm trying to give you stuff that you can help you navigate it, but there's no guarantee. There's a higher percentage that it is going to help you, but sometimes You know, life just does this thing and people get hurt, and that's what it takes to create the space. Is they need a jaunt. They need a traumatic thing to set it in from a passive, slow traumatic thing that set it up that way. So hopefully that helped you guys a little bit with